Hi guys, my name is Amy Howard and I'm the Disabilities and Mental Health Coordinator for Chattanooga Head Start. Today I'm going to continue on our series and talking about trauma and the effects on our brains, our body, and just how it impacts our lives in general. So the first thing I wanted to review with you guys today is the coping plan that we made in our last video, because trauma can be kind of difficult, so I wanted you guys to be able to reference it if you start to feel some of those overwhelming emotions that we've talked about in previous videos. So the first step was to label your emotions, identify exactly what you're feeling. The second step was to gauge your emotions. How intense are you feeling that? Are you getting to that overwhelming point, or are you more at a calmer early stage of the warning signs or something like that? The third stage is to ground yourself, where you give yourself that grounding high five and really and get your senses involved to help bring you back to the present moment, as opposed to being stuck in the past or thinking about the future. The fourth stage is to use your coping skills. This can be things like using exercise or coloring, deep breathing, talking to people, things like that. And the last stage is to process your feelings. So typically this is done by a professional, so it will help you out rather than and do more good than it can negative. So we encourage you to talk to a professional, but if you're not ready for that, talk to a friend, or you can talk to people on the phone or online or things like that to help you get through this hard time. So today I'm going to, like I said, continue my conversation about trauma and the effects on, today we're going to talk about the brain. So first things first, what is trauma? The definition that I was able to find was trauma is a deeply distressing and disturbing experience. And we identified that in the previous video, where we're gauging our emotions, and we have our early warning sign, our middle warning sign, and our late warning sign. The late warning sign is more when we might get into that phase where our emotions are overwhelming, our coping skills aren't working, and things like that. That's kind of what the criteria is for a crisis. When you're in a crisis, that can send you into the trauma. So we're going to talk about why is trauma so impactful on us, and especially on our brains today. So we have a diagram for you guys of a brain. There you go. It's this is what it looks like maybe on a regular day, such as today. So some of the key parts that are impacted in the brain when trauma comes through, we have the brain stem. This is how the messages are delivered to our body. We have our thinking brain portion. And we have our limbic system. So let's say that you were walking on a trail one day, like going out camping or something like that, hanging out outside, and you see this big bear come up. So this bear comes up and he sends off your amygdala. It has this little alarm that goes off, and it says that there's a threat approaching and there's danger coming, and you need to either fight it, you need to run away, fly, or freeze, stand still. So that happens in the amygdala, and it tells the hippocampus to remember this for next time so we can respond accordingly. The thalamus right here is like a watchtower observing the events, and the hypothalamus is what pumps the adrenaline into your adrenal glands and then down through the brainstem and to your whole body. So basically, when you see this bear coming, your fight, flight, or freeze response kicks in, and it sends that adrenaline. The problem is that when this happens, our thinking brain goes out of order. It shuts down at this time and is unable to respond. So you're only able to act on your previous experiences from what your hippocampus remembers, which in trauma is where things get a little shaky. So let's say that, like I said, the hippocampus reminds us what what we can do for the next time we see an event. So we saw this was the bear that scared us in the beginning. That's what triggered us. So let's say the next time you see a bear is when somebody brings a teddy bear like this into your classroom. So what do you think happens when you see this bear? It triggers the same response as this bear, because our amygdala, our fight, flight, or freeze response could still go off based on our perception of what we see. So we saw this bear, which reminded us of this bear, and this bear was a threat to our body. So we pump that adrenaline down through the brainstem, and that's when your heart starts beating faster, your thoughts are getting a little chaotic and unorganized, you might start pacing, and you're getting to that overwhelmed stage. So that's kind of how trauma works on our body. When we experience a traumatic event, our alert sign goes off and it sends that, and we evaluate it as a threat just based off of what we've experienced before. So if we are getting triggered by a teddy bear like this, that's because of our previous experiences. So what happens with trauma is that that alert keeps on going off, thinking that you're in a threatening situation like before, when you aren't, when you're in your classroom and this is a teddy bear being brought in by someone. The bad part is that our trauma can be triggered by any of our senses. Like I said before, it could be a similar taste of the incident. So maybe when this bear attacked, maybe you're eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the trail or something. So then when you eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, it could trigger the same response. Or there might be a similar smell, or you might hear a similar sound. Things like that can raise this alert and bring us back into that traumatic state that we were in before. So what is the problem with that? The problem is that there are several bears that can trigger a trauma response. And these are known as adverse childhood experiences, or also known as ACEs for short. ACEs could be any type of abuse. They could be physical abuse, emotional abuse, or sexual abuse. It could be any kind of neglect, whether it be physical or emotional. It could be household dysfunction, such as a mental illness, domestic violence, divorce, incarcerations, or substance abuse. Or it could be, some of the other examples included a risk of deportation, family separations, a transient lifestyle when you're constantly on the move, discrimination, historical trauma, or inadequate housing. So any of those experiences similar to the bear could cause this response to happen to your body. So if something like that keeps on happening over and over and over, your body is constantly in that state of alert. You're really tense and you're always in that fight, flight, or freeze mode. So if your body is tense like that all the time, it can cause several different health issues, including severe obesity, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, depression, strokes, suicide attempts, COPD, STDs, broken bones, and other aches and pains in your body, that because your body holds on to those memories. So that's what the effects of trauma are on the brain and the body. Again, it triggers the alert when we think of an event is threatening, even though it may not be as threatening as the first time we experienced it. And it puts our body into that fight, flight, or freeze mode, which puts us into a stress or a fight type of mode. So once we experience that over and over and over and over, it really wears on our bodies, where we start having the physical symptoms in our body. And the best way that we have found to cope with that is to be able to use our coping skills, to use our grounding skills, and to talk to professionals that can help you work through those traumatic events. Basically, if you talk to a therapist or someone like me or somebody at a community that can help you out and work through that, we can work with you so that your brain isn't always going to this alert mode, so that you would be able to tell the difference between a threat and a not threatening experience. So those are some of the ways that we could help you out through these times, and those are the ways that trauma affects your body. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!